For more, welcome in CBS Sports HQ NBA analysts John Gonzalez and Brad Botkin. And John and Brad, if people haven't been watching the Thunder all season long, this is really what's characteristic of this squad. In the third quarter is where they win these games. And in this one, that's where they won this game. They were able to build that lead to absorb a fourth quarter surge from Minnesota. John, what did you see in the third quarter from the Thunder once again?
Yeah, same thing as game one, right? Where all of a sudden they put their foot on the gas and they pull away. And yeah, I thought the Wolves were actually better tonight than they were in game one. That's a low bar. I understand that, but just not nearly enough against Oklahoma City, who, by the way, they didn't even shoot the ball well, Oklahoma City, from deep, but it didn't matter because they were absolutely lethal inside the arc on their two-point shots. And then that defense is so swarming. I mean, they come after you in waves. And Julius Randle, who has been excellent in this postseason, was rendered so inefficient and ineffective that they didn't even play him in the fourth quarter because Chris Finch was trying to find somebody to go to. Nas was playing a little bit better. Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So they sat a guy in Julius Randle who had been excellent all postseason long. That goes to tell you how good this Oklahoma City defense is. And then SGA, you were mentioning the foul baiting. I personally love it. I find the dark arts of getting to the foul line to be quite useful and entertaining, and it's a skill set, and he does it better than anybody else in the NBA. Kind of does it the way that James Harden used to when he was the MVP. So he goes for 38 points tonight. He looked fantastic, and yeah, Oklahoma City just too much for the Wolves in these first two games.
Brad, you knew that SGA was going to have a huge game one day after winning the MVP, right? He gets the trophy. You knew he was going to come out strong. And again, that third quarter was the difference. Look, it's turnovers. OKC scoring 12 points off of 5 turnovers from Minnesota in the third quarter. They turn the water off in the third is what they do to teams. Timberwolves were 6 of 20 from the field in that third quarter, Brad.
Yeah, it's how they do it. It's how they've done it all year. You're talking about the best three-point defense in the league and the best rim protecting defense in the league. Those are the two spots that every modern NBA offense is trying to score from, and they shut it off. And they don't shut it off by not allowing you to attempt threes. They're actually okay with you attempting threes. 23rd in the league this year in three-pointers attempted, but first in defensive three-point percentage because they contest. It's a theory of every defense to close down driving lanes and then recover back out the shooters. But most defenses have to compromise one or the other. They can't do both. They can't cover the ground. OKC can. They can do it with multiple defenders so they can close off all those driving lanes, close off the paint with 2 7-footers at the rim who don't have to come out on Rudy Gobert and respect him as a shooter so they can stay camped in the paint. And all this space becomes cramped. And then they still don't have to give up open looks from three. They can get back out to contest. And it makes for very, very uphill, upstream swimming, offensively speaking, for the Timberwolves. Offense just looks tough for them. I agree with John. They were better in this game. Early in the game, particularly, they were creating a lot of good driving kicks. Anthony Edwards was putting his foot down, getting into the paint, and it did open up some three-pointers. But the Timberwolves are not a team, to me, even though they were a top 10 offense in the league this year, they're not a team that can rely on contested, tough shots. They have guys who can make shots, but I wouldn't call very many of them outside of Anthony Edwards actual shot makers. They rely on defenses collapsing and getting good, clean, open, uncontested looks. Jaden McDaniels, all these guys. And when they're getting contested the way the Thunder contest you and they're being disruptive and they're turning the ball over, you're exactly right. The defense is what really fuels the Thunder. And it's really not fair because you have the MVP offensively in SGA, and then you have this all-time defense. It's like if you put like prime Aaron Rodgers with like the 2001 Ravens defense. And it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to deal with that two-way attack.
OKC outscored opponents by 14 points per 100 possessions in third quarters this season. Best in the NBA. They outscored the Timberwolves by 14 in this third quarter. It's the recipe that gets them wins, John. And also, what also people are starting to see and that maybe are tuning in finally to the Thunder in these playoffs, Chet Holmgren is nasty. He's getting after it. Like, this is what you want from your big guy, to have that nastiness.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Chet Holmgren, and yes, he threw down a couple of dunks today that were, there was a lot of energy to them. He was mouthing Dante DiVincenzo, who was mouthy in and of himself, and he got a tech on that, and I didn't mind it. I thought it was one of those plays, you can see it there on the alley-oop as well, where he threw down the business end there, and here's the one where he ends up mouthing Dante DiVincenzo and gets the technical for it. I didn't mind it. I thought that was one of those things where you've got energy, you've got the vibes on your side, you've got the momentum on your side. He's letting them know, listen, you're an our house, and it's not going to be an easy night for you. And it wasn't in game one, and it wasn't in game two. And maybe the momentum shifts a little bit going back to Minnesota. But if I'm Minnesota right now, I'm a little bit worried about it. It's not just Chet Holmgren, and also Jalen Williams had a fantastic night tonight. SGA is a problem for everybody. Nobody can stop him. There's a reason why he's the MVP. You had a more aggressive Ant Edwards tonight. He was hunting his shot. He only took 13 field goal attempts in game one. He had that by the half, before the half in game two, but still couldn't get a three to fall. So if I'm the Wolves, I thought initially coming into this series that they would be a pretty good matchup for Oklahoma City because they've got a lot of big bodies. They go 8 deep. Oklahoma City obviously goes even deeper than that. They can go 10, even 11 deep. But I thought that the Wolves would look better through these first two games, but Oklahoma City has given them everything they can handle, and that includes Chet Holmgren, of course.
Yeah, Brad, and for Anthony Edwards to be able to lead his team to a series win, which looks impossible at this point, he's going to need some more help because one of his big guys goes for 6 points on 2 of 11, didn't even play in the fourth quarter in Julius Randle. What went wrong for him?
Well, John talked about this. You know, Julius Randle, I don't know that anything necessarily went wrong. It's just that, you know, it was statistically pretty improbable that we've seen a very large sample size with Julius Randle, and he's been a good player for New York, was overtasked as a number one option. But the way he has played in these playoffs, there's no way that he was going to continue to do that on a game-by-game basis, like every night. So there was going to be one of these games that came at a bad time. And certainly Minnesota needs him to play better, a lot better in game three. Because, again, once you get outside of Anthony Edwards, throw out the top 10 offensive rating. Once you get outside of Anthony Edwards, at this level, at this stage of the game, yeah, Jaden McDaniels can put the ball on the floor. Dante DiVincenzo can create a little bit. Naz Reid can stretch the floor. There's some elements. But once you get outside Anthony Edwards, there's not really anybody outside of Julius Randle who can actually create contested offense, that he can go and get tough buckets when people chest up to him and are cutting off his angles, and he's not getting easy looks that are created off of Anthony Edwards' penetration. That is vital in this series because Oklahoma City is not – we just talked about – how they contest everything, how they can fly out, close down driving lanes, and still get back out to the shooter. That means you're always have somebody on your chest. They can switch everything. There's no openings. So you've got to be able to create contested offense. And Julius Randle is the only guy outside of Anthony Edwards that can do that for Minnesota. Again, I don't think it was anything that went wrong for him tonight. I think this was bound to happen. Julius Randle was not going to be this efficient through an entire playoff run. It bit him at a bad time tonight.
John, what did you make of Jaden McDaniels sending SGA to the floor? What did you think of that?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, Jaden McDaniels, and Brad just mentioned him. Jaden McDaniels has had a better season this year than a lot of people realize. I mean, he is a former all-defensive selection. And then tonight, when things weren't going well, hey, send a little message to SGA that, okay, you're going to keep getting these foul calls. And some of them, as you mentioned, Hakeem, were – you know, they were the correct calls by the referees. I didn't think that they were bad calls or that it was foul hunting or grifting or whatever that people like to accuse SGA of doing. But if you're Jaden McDaniels, yeah, absolutely. It's the playoffs, man. Start sending a message. I thought Jaden McDaniels was actually really good tonight and has had a really good season. There was a chunk of the season earlier when Julius Randle went out where Jaden McDaniels really stepped up his office. But his defense is really his baseline. It's really his bread and butter. And there was some toughness there and some grittiness there. Maybe he was frustrated. Maybe he was trying to send a message, but yeah, I thought it was message sent. Now we'll see whether or not they can act on it in game three.
Yeah, SGA said post-game you got to bring the fight if you're Minnesota going to Minneapolis for game 3 on Saturday. And Brad, what's it going to take? What's it going to take to beat the Thunder? I'm not talking about winning the series. I'm talking about getting the game.
Yeah, it's going to take – they've got to get hot from 3. You know, I thought from the beginning of this series it was – part of my prediction that I thought it would be a somewhat, you know, there's no easy series at this point, but I thought that the Rudy Gobert matchup was tough because he just allows those guys to park at the rim, and then they defend the three-point line so well that I thought this was going to have to be a heavy mid-range series, that Minnesota was going to have to get a lot of work done in those gray area soft spots where OKC runs them off the line, but they can't get all the way to the rim because of Hartenstein and Holmgren park back there. I thought it was going to be tough just from a mathematical standpoint. And I really do still think that is the way. I don't think it's a way that can be sustainable and come back and win the series. But if you're talking about for a game, I think that Minnesota has to loosen the teeth of this defense by getting into those gray area mid-range spots and getting some rhythm to their offense where there actually are some openings. Because tonight, and John talked about it, they did get closer to the paint and into the paint. They were more assertive in attacking downhill, but at the end of the day, they didn't make very many shots in the paint. Look at their percentage, 41% overall in the first half.
Còn vấn đề là sau nó có gọi hay không thì ta không biết thật. Gọi đây. Thì đấy, gọi thì ta không biết. Hôm đấy là hôm ta mới nói là hôm ở trên nhà cô Lý. Đánh ghen đó. Chỉ đánh ghen đây. Điên. Thế sao ta có nhắn tin ta bảo đó, sao ta còn gọi điện thẳng luôn mà. Ta bảo làm gì rồi? Gọi đi ăn ốc, làm ở đây bảo đi đánh ghen đây này, sao dưới. Điên à, đánh ghen cái gì mà đánh ghen. Anh đã bảo là anh tin nó rồi. Chửi cho ta hơn chửi chó. Quay ra nói mình. Hai người đánh một. Là mẹ đen tới đấm tao. Điên. Coi được. Con tại cô anh phải thầu. Tại sao? Con xấu quá. Xấu quá. Con muốn cái màu khác. Ok, tí nữa cô làm cho. À, sao cô làm vòng siêu nhân người nhện? Hợp lý đấy. Hợp lý hơn. Giang ơi, lại làm gì trong đấy đây? Giang ơi. Nó khả năng đấm nào. Ôi, thế là hôm nay mình làm được 7 tiếng rồi. Bao nhiêu thì bao nhiêu thì quan trọng chứ tiền chứ giấy đâu. Ta muốn ăn. Nào, nó thích ăn. Ta muốn ăn tại vì đói. Đói lắm rồi. Làm cái gọi nó thích ăn. Cái video xong rồi.